Vayomer Hashem el Moshe, God told Moshe, Lo yishma lechem Paro. Paro will not listen to you to take your people out. Leman revot mofetai beretz Mitzrayim, in order that I can increase and multiply my wonders in the land of Egypt. Now this is in Shemot, Parashat Bo, 12, Yud Bet, Pasuk Tet, 9. Now the words Revot Mofetai Beretz Mitzrayim, the first letters, Rashi Tevot, make up the word or the name Rambam. So here you have a reference to the Rambam, Moshe ben Maimonides, in the Torah already, a reference to him, a remez. And look what it says here, Revot Mofetai Beretz Mitzrayim, Moshe ve'Aharon asu et kol ha'mofetim ha'eleh. And then it says Moshe and Aaron did all these wonders. So the word Moshe is right after the Rambam. Right after the words that say Rambam, it says Moshe, just to show Moshe ben Maimon. Also, a few Pesukim before, in 3, it says Gam ha'ish Moshe gadol me'od beretz Mitzrayim, that the man Moshe, which we can reference again to the Rambam, was very great in the land of Egypt. Again, where he was, his community was in Egypt, like we know. So already referencing the Rambam and his great wonders, even they call the Rambam Mofet Hador, the wondrous one of his generation, is already referenced in the Torah. Now, what's so wondrous really about the Rambam? You know, he's a very fascinating figure. And in many ways, we may not appreciate what he did for us. You know, when we learn, let's learn something, we're going to see what exactly he did for us. Let's take Gemara Pesachim, and let's see the last chapter, which is about the Seder night, and see something about it. So let's just read the Mishnah real quick, and we'll explain it. Erev Pesachim, or Arevei Pesachim, on the eve of Passover, Samuch lemincha, close to mincha time, let's say a half hour before the mincha time, mincha ketana, whatever time that would be. Lo yochal adam ad shetechshach. A person is not allowed to eat until the night, until kiddush, meaning. Afilu anisha b'Yisrael lo yochal ad sheyasev. Even the poor man of Israel should not eat until he reclines. V'lo yifchatulo me'arba kosot shel yain. They should also not give him less than 4 cups of wine, meaning the tzedakah people, because he's an ani, if he needs it. V'afilu min ha'tamchui. Even if he has to take from the tamchui, which means he's very poor, he takes from the plate of tzedakah that you only get when you're very poor, even he has to make sure to get 4 cups of wine, whether they give it to him or he has to sell his shirt to get it. Just stressing that point. And that's the end of this Mishnah. Now, there's a lot going on here. How are you going to handle this? And this is just an example, so you can do this for all the Mishnayot. We have to have Mishnayot like in our palm of our hand. Forget Gemara to memorize it and to know it well. That's much harder. Of course, we have to try. But Mishnah is very short. It's just, small volume, the whole thing. Not like Shas like that. There's a way to handle Mishnayot. You could keep the whole Shas of Mishnayot in your hand. There's one book can fit the whole Shas in your hand of Mishnayot. But it sounds like things all over the place. First talking about not eating, and then the ani has to drink wine and recline. So let's make sense of it. Let's dissect it. And that's how you want to do every Mishnah. So first of all, is this all one topic? So you'd say, yeah, it's all about the Seder night. Yeah, but that's too general. Of course it's Seder night. You could also say it's all part of the 613 mitzvot. It's too general. You got to get more specific. So let's always find, and this is the idea now, always find your 613 in the lines of the Mishnah. Hashem has in the Torah, like we said many times, the Torah itself, the written Torah itself, has 2 parts. See, not saying written and oral, that's 2 parts of Torah. But in the written, there's 2 parts. One is the 613 mitzvot verses, and the other is all the stories. So that's why you have an oral law for both. The oral law for the 613 parts is called the Mishnah, and the oral law for the story parts is the Midrash, basically. So that's it. So a Mishnah is really the elaboration of the 613 mitzvot. So it means every line of Mishnah has to be linked to a 613. So you want to know which one it is. Can't just say Seder night. Seder night is not one of the 613 just like that. You have to say which mitzvah of the Seder night. And then which line of this is that one. That's you're going to get more clear and more clear. Tackle them. You see, you're going to tackle your Mishnayot. So let's see. Erev Pesachim samuch lemincha lo yochal adam ad shetechshach. You can't eat until Kiddush, basically, from whatever time, 3:30ish or whatever in the afternoon, 3 o'clock maybe. Samuch lemincha again. What's this law coming out of? Which 613 tells us not to eat? There's no 613 of that. But there is. It's really a dirabanan off of a 613 law. What are we trying to save ourselves here for? Because we want to have an appetite, because we have a mitzvah coming up, which is the eating of the matzah. So this is a matzah law. This is a matzah law. And we have to make sure to eat with an appetite. So the rabbi said, don't eat from early on so that you can eat your matzah and have an appetite. You see? So this is coming right out of that law. Matzah. Every law has a phrase. Like tefillin, even though it doesn't say tefillin in the Torah, it says totafot, yadecha, but it's tefillin. Ya paraduma, shatnez, everything has a word. So matzah, that's the word of it. Now it says, even the ani has to make sure to lean. Even though saying, even the ani, it's almost like it's continuing the sentence, but it's not. This is a whole nother topic. The ani leaning, poor man leaning, is not a matzah law. We're in another law now. Which law are we in? So in the law called, again, the phrase of it is, Sipur Yitziat Mitzrayim, which is we might say Haggadah. It says V'gadta lebincha. Really, Haggadah is not Sipur Yitziat Mitzrayim, because the Haggadah is the whole book that has many mitzvot in it. You have Sipur Yitziat Mitzrayim, which is basically the Magid part, and the Haggadah has eating the matzah later, so it has the matzah part. You see? So it's not just saying the word Haggadah for Sipur Yitziat Mitzrayim. You have to know your phrases. That's all I'm saying. So look how the Mishnah jumped from a matzah law to a Sipur Yitziat Mitzrayim law. And you would never know it just by reading it. It sounds like one sentence. So even the ani has to lean. Why even him? Meaning us specifically, and even him. That's what it means. And he has to have 4 cups of wine. That's also part of Sipur Yitziat Mitzrayim. You see, now what's the logic? First of all, what is Sipur Yitziat Mitzrayim about? Now, we have to be telling the story of Egypt. Why did the rabbis, this is from the rabbis, to tell us to lean and to drink 4 cups of wine? Why is that? Where does that come in when we have to just tell the story of Egypt? Why do we have to do anything? Because part of the law is, in Sipur Yitziat Mitzrayim, is not just to tell the story, but to live the story. Act the story as though it's happening to you. Like the Pasuk says, Asa Hashem li b'tzeiti mitzrayim, like God did to me. So by saying that God did it to me, it means every me has to participate and feel like we came out of Egypt. So since now we have to act something, so the rabbis gave us what to act, in case we wouldn't think of it on our own. So we lean, we make believe we're free, we drink the 4 cups of wine, shows we get out of the 4 levels of evil, like we said, and other explanations. So that's where that's coming from. So these are rabbinics, basically, on the 613 that it's applying to. You see, a Mishnah could be a detail on the 613, or it could be a rabbinic on the 613, which these happen to be. So again, you want to know that when you're reading a Mishnah. What is this? What's just a detail? What's a rabbinic? You see, as you move along. Now, to separate it like we just did, to say it's a matzah law and then a Sipur Yetziat Mitzrayim law, you had two of them. Basically, there's three halachot here. One, the matzah law, and two coming out of Sipur Yetziat Mitzrayim. Look how nicely we dissected it. Now, you might say, how am I going to figure that out? Well, I didn't just figure it out like that. I had help. You know who helped me? The Rambam. Now we're getting to the Rambam. Where are you going to find the Rambam, first of all? So you have to look at the famous, if you learn Gemara, on the corner here, the Ein Mishpat Ner Mitzvah, where it tells you to go to the Rambam and the Shulchan Aruch. It tells you on each line, the small letter that in the Gemara, it tells you where to go over there. Now let's see what it says here. When it says a person should not eat until night, it's taking you, Samuch lemincha ad shetechshach, Aleph, it's taking you to the Rambam Perek Vav, 6th chapter of Matzah, meaning Chametzu Matzah, that's how the Rambam phrased it, Halacha Yud Bet. So it's Vav Yud Bet. Now let's see what's happening in Vav Yud Bet. And it's more than just what we think. You're going to see something interesting here. More than just if you usually do this. There's more to it than what's meeting at the eye here. Okay, so now, when you see Vav, look how interesting. Vav, Perek Shishi, it starts like this. Mitzvat aseh min haTorah lechol matzah, beleil 15. Mitzvah to eat matzah. Why all of a sudden now on Perek 6 he's saying that? Because what the Rambam is doing, and he's organizing, first he tells us the laws. Now, by the way, there's one law of matzah, which is, in Bo, right? In Yud Bet, Yud Chet, Ba'erev tochilu matzot, the evening you should eat matzot. That's the matzah law. One mitzvah. Sipur Yetziat Mitzrayim, which is in Bo also in Kadesh, Li Kol Bechor V'Gadata Lebencha, Yud Gimel Chet, just if you want to look them up. One law. Now, when it comes to Chametz, there's 6 laws. Chametz has 6 laws. 3 of eating, meaning not to eat, and 3 of owning, possession. Just real quick, the eating laws is on the 14th not to eat at a certain time, meaning, and then on the holiday, which is 15th and on, not to eat chametz, and not to eat mixture of chametz, tarovet. 3 eating, and 3 owning is again 1 on the 14th, which we have to destroy the chametz because not to own it, and bal yera'eh, bal yimatzeh, that it shouldn't be found or seen. See, look how interesting. You can also line up your 613 laws and make them make sense. 3 eating laws, 3 owning laws for chametz. Now the Rambam, he has a bunch of chapters here. He's not going to say one law about chametz, then jump to matzah, jump to Sipur Yetziat Mitzrayim, and then give another chametz law. He's going to, as he did, put all the chametz laws first, because there's a lot of them. And he did chapter 1 through 5. 1 through 5 is all about chametz laws. Come chapter 6, he says, mitzvat aseh to eat matzah. So 6, he's introducing the new law called matzah. And when we get to 7, he's going to say, mitzvat aseh l'saper b'nisim b'neflaot, to do the Sipur Yetziat Mitzrayim. And then he's going to give a chapter or 2 on that. So he's very organized, is the point. So when the Ein Mishpat, here's the point. When the Ein Mishpat is giving you where to look, it's also telling you the topic. You don't have to guess the topic. Because by saying, look at chapter 6, like it said here, I'm going to know by looking in it that chapter 6 is now the matzah section. You see, chapter 6 is his matzah explanation. So now I know that first line in the Gemara that talked about not eating was a matzah law. See, I didn't have to figure that out. It's going to be obvious when you find it in the Rambam, because it's in that section. Very simple. And then when you get to this, the ani drinking and leaning, it's going to tell you the Ein Mishpat to go to chapter 7. And just by knowing chapter 7, by reading the beginning of it, you know that you're into the Sipur Yitzat Mitzrayim law now for the next 2 halachot of the Mishnah. You see, a Mishnah is a collection of halachot. You want to know where in the 613 you are, and the Rambam will show you. That's very simple. Now, not only that, look what else the Rambam does. And this is going to be such a fascinating thing. Now, when it said not to eat, right? Not to eat. So it took us to chapter 6, number 12. Okay, Yud Bet. Now, before we read Yud Bet, you should know, besides the chapters having a name for it, like you could say again, chapter 1 through 5 is Chametz, 6 is Matzah, 7 and 8, Sipur Yitzat Mitzrayim. That's how you can write yourself a little table of contents. You know, some books with the Rambam have it. You know, not these big books, but some of the smaller books, you know, of the old books, you know, they have chapter titles. You can see that. But some books lately have, there's a few, you can look in the bookstore and find out which ones. There's a few versions that I've seen that they even take within a chapter. Let's say chapter has 10 laws. So it'll say, you know, 1 through 3 is about this. 4 to 6 is about that, and 7 to 10 is about that. They further enumerate what the topic is, which is great. Because matzah, you might have many laws, like you might have who has to eat the matzah. You see? When do we have to eat something? Basically, let me say it this way. When is it forbidden to eat around the matzah? And we'll see what that means. Now, believe it or not, the last 2, which is 11 and 12, has to do with forbidden eating times. I'll just say it like that. Not that's forbidden eating times. Now, let's see. Let's start reading from Yud Aleph. Okay, look what it says here. Midivrei Sofrim, from the rabbis again. She'en maftirin achar matzah kelum. You don't eat anything after the matzah. This is the afikoman. And we say, en maftirin achar pesach afikoman. So here he's writing it this way, the Rambam. Even kilayot and egozim, nuts and that, even that. And he just says about that. You see? So besides not eating at the mincha time, or, you know, samuch, there's another eating time that we're not allowed. That's after the matzah. So look how the Rambam is putting all the laws that have to do with forbidden eating that's related to the matzah in one section. You have before the matzah, after the matzah, you have something you're not allowed to eat, meaning he put it all in one section here. So when you learn with the Rambam, you're not only going to get the line that you have in the Mishnah, you're going to get all the other things that are around it. You see, it makes like a puzzle or a structure. Because there's other times not to eat, not just the samuch lemincha, but you wouldn't have known that on your own. But by finding in the Rambam and seeing that 11 and 12 is like its own little topic called forbidden eating times, now you see that there's other times that you're not allowed to eat. And this is now after the matzah. One was before, one was after. Now look at Yud Bet. Yud Bet says, Asru Chachamim, again, the rabbis forbade, Le'echol matzah be'erev HaPesach, to eat erev Pesach matzah, Kedesh yeh heker lachilata ba'erev. So that there should be a heker, like you should recognize that you're eating matzah in the night. If you're eating matzah all day, it's not going to be like a special thing at night. But that's not what we learned in the Mishnah. You're right. So this is yet another forbidden eating law. This wasn't the one of the Mishnah. This is saying you can't eat matzah even from the beginning of the day. This is the not eating matzah law from the whole day. We say either eat other things, don't eat matzah and matzah products even from the morning. And then he says like this in the same halacha. V'chein, furthermore, asur le'echol erev haPesach mekodem hamincha kim'at. See, he says, like samuch lemincha, he wrote, a little bit before mincha, you're not allowed to eat. And he didn't say matzah, he said le'echol, anything. Kedei sheyikanes le'achilat matzah b'ta'ava, so that you can enter to eat the matzah with an appetite. You see, that's our Mishnah law. So we found our Mishnah law in his 3 laws of not eatings. You see how he made a little structure of it. And now you find your Mishnah smack somewhere in his topics. And even how he numbered him, he's a genius, the Rambam. Everything had a reason. Look how he made Yud Aleph be about what's after the matzah, because that's afikoman. And then Yud Bet, he put the 2 there, because they're both early eatings, before the matzah. Because why didn't he just make Yud Aleph, Yud Bet, Yud Gimel, or make the whole thing Yud Aleph and show 3 types of non-eatings? Because he did Yud Aleph is after, and Yud Bet is 2, that's before. So since they're similar, he put them in one halacha. That's why he said Vechen, and also. See, it's all master organization, what he's writing here. The whole Rambam is just filled with specific intent when he wrote. And it's just mind-boggling how it can help us learning in the Mishnayot and Gemarot. Even the Gemara, meaning all the Ein Mishpat Ner Mitzvah, you can find it in the Rambam and know exactly where you are. He mapped it all out, the Rambam. Such a fascinating work. And again, even around the line that's in the Mishnah or Gemara, he'll tell you the puzzle pieces that surround it. You see, like we just saw. Now, just to know, this idea of structuring, it's almost like when you say you want to know the place of something. You want to know, like Rabbi Kessin always explains, Rabbi Mendel and Rabbi Shimon Kessin, which I always love to explain their ideas of methodology of learning, which is to analyze and synthesize. Analyze is you analyze a detail. Synthesize is you put the detail in its place in the map or in the structure. You just place it. You don't do anything with it. You don't learn it. You learn it by analyzing it, but you place it. That's called synthesis, but you learn equally enough, or maybe more, by synthesizing. Because when you see it in its context of everything else, like we said, it's peace with everything around it, saying this is this, this is that. See, I wouldn't know what chapter 6 was, that it was matzah, unless I knew that 1 through 5 was chametz, 7 and 8 is sipur yetziat Mitzrayim. Now it makes sense that 6 is matzah. So you have to, by knowing its place, means you know its place and the other things around it. You see, because that's how you make it a place. If you just say chapter 6 is matzah without showing me everything else, it doesn't make the same kind of sense to me. So you have to know the else in order to know the piece that you're plugging into the piece, into the puzzle, into the slot. Now, when we do this all the time. When people get married, all of a sudden you say this guy's engaged. What's the first thing we ask? We want to know about him. What's the first thing we ask? What's his hopes? What's his dreams? We don't ask that. That's him. That's analyzing him. But we don't ask that. You know what we say? What's his family? We want to place him first. We want to place him. To me, meaning to us, I get more of a comfortable feeling of who he is by placing him, more than analyzing him. So look how we do it all the time. We want to place things, and to us, that's what makes something clear. That's why we do it all the time, whether you realize it or not. So we do it in life, but now we have to learn to do it in the learning. Don't just learn your piece at the time. You have to place it. And the Rambam was great in that. But now we have to learn the Rambam, and it'll help us to understand what he's done. Bezat Hashem. Maybe you can even say a person's first name is like an analysis, and his last name is like a synthesis, because the last name places him. Anyway, we should have much success in our learning, and we appreciate now what the Rambam has done.